Hi, welcome to the Everlearner's Top 10 Tips for French GCSE. Before we get started and look at the tips themselves and about the language in the paper and some of the question styles, let's give a few key things that might be really helpful to you before you get started with those exam papers. So for example, answer every single question on the exam paper. Even if you don't really know, make an educated guess. Use common sense, okay? Don't leave any blanks in there, okay? Use highlighters, underline words, okay? The question paper is yours, okay? You can make notes anywhere that you like, as long as it's not writing in the actual answer box that you need to use or in the sort of the barcodes that you'll find on there, because they need those when they mark them, okay? As I said earlier, make sure you use your common sense for answering things that you don't know. If the question's in French, answer in French. And if it's English, answer in English. And don't worry, sometimes your answers might be A, B, C, D. It may well be A, B, C, D. If you think you're right, stick with it. In terms of the listening exam, there's a few helpful little things to point out for you. So get familiar with the beeps and the patterns of the beeps and know whether you've heard it for the first time or if it's the second time you're hearing it. Pay attention to how much of the question you're going to hear. Are you hearing all of question one? Are you hearing question one part A? Are you hearing question one part A part one? Okay, make sure you know what you're listening out for. And use the time before the recording starts. You know that sort of almost awkward pause when you think, is the question even about to start? Use that time to be thinking about the question, the sort of language you're going to be expecting to hear. And finally, as I said earlier, scribble notes everywhere you want. Vocabulary, sides of the paper, next to the question. Okay, use your paper, it's yours, own it. So now let's watch this 10 top tips. You must make sure then that you read the whole question before you either read the text or listen to the extract. So look at this question here, for example. Reading the whole question involves me reading the heading and the subheading. Now I know it's tempting just to kind of skip past those, but actually they tell us quite a lot. Before even reading this, even if I don't speak a word of French, I know this is about a holiday. I know it's in the Seychelles. I know what sort of text it's about. I know the type of text. It's an email from someone called Ludovic, which if I've studied French I'll know as a boy. And that I need to answer, very importantly, in English. Yeah. So before I've even read the text or read the question as such, just from reading the heading and the subheading, I know an awful lot of information about what I'm about to read. And that really helps prepare you, especially in the listening if you're feeling a bit nervous. Okay. Then if I go on down and actually read my options, I will find out even more about this. So I know that obviously it's a holiday. Ludovic's gone on holiday somewhere and with someone. Perhaps it's his parents, perhaps it's to the coast. We will find out. And that if you look at options B, C, D, E, and F, it got lost, the coach broke down, somebody ran the police arrested the coach driver, everyone had to make their own way home, or even G, the company refunded the money. Something bad has happened, hasn't it? It perhaps wasn't the best holiday to the Seychelles. And so something's happened here, and something negative to look out for. And of course, the last one, it made a complaint. So clearly something happened. It's going to be the ins and outs, the fine detail of what exactly happened. But we found out a lot of information there before we've even read a word of French, haven't we? Which is always helpful. Another sort of question to be aware of in terms of making sure you read the question carefully is this one here. So we've got, what do we know about Annabelle's character? Okay, and obviously this would normally have a heading and subheading with it. But what do you know about Annabelle's character? Well, if you look in the text, Annabelle était une jeune fille sérieuse et timide. Okay, this is the only bit I've highlighted for you. So this tells us she's a young girl and that she's serious and shy. Now imagine this is a 1 mark question. Which of those are we going to choose to answer what do you know about Annabelle's character? Well, there's one you definitely can't use. You cannot say that she's a young girl in response to this question. Okay, you would not get a mark because that's not answering the question. It's asking us about her character. Describing her as a young girl doesn't describe her character. So we would need to say she was either shy or serious. One of those would be fine. So read the question. What exactly are they asking you to do? Knowing your question words is key to understanding those questions in the section of the exam that's purely in French. Remember, of course, your exam is split into questions you have to answer in English and questions you have to answer in French. So look, for example, these questions here. They're all about milk. Don't know why, but, le lait, milk. I was feeling inspired by, dairy products at the time. So, qui a bu le lait is your first one. We're looking for a person, aren't we? We're being asked who drank the milk. So maybe you might have a person's name, or it might be mon frère, my brother, something like that. Pourquoi a-t-il bu le lait? Why did he drink the milk? So we're looking for a reason, aren't we? Quand est-ce qu'il a bu le lait? When? Looking for a time phrase. Yesterday, this morning, Monday. Où est le lait? Where is the milk? So looking for a place, maybe in the fridge. I mean, that makes most sense, but you never know. Combien de litres de lait a-t-il bu? How many litres did he drink? Combien de, how many? Okay, really, obviously in that instance, you'll be looking for a number, wouldn't you? So really importantly, do spend time going over your numbers as well. Don't want to drop marks on something really basic like your numbers. Que pense-t-il des produits laitiers? Ooh, we've diverged away from milk, gone to dairy products. But what does he think about them? So we're looking for an opinion there, aren't we? Que pense-t-il? Be careful not to confuse it with qui, meaning who. And the last two, comment était le lait? What was it like? What was the milk like? So we're looking for an adjective there to describe it, aren't we? And comment here with its other meaning how. Okay, so how did he find the milk? Did he find it by stumbling across it in the fridge or something? So again, looking for a reason. So do spend some time going over these, because you need to know what they're asking you in order to be able to get the right answer. Very, very often your exam will use negatives to try and catch you out a bit. So it's vital that you spend time going over these. You need to know your ne pas, your not, your ne jamais, your never, your ne plus, not anymore, your ne personne, nobody, your ne rien, nothing, ne aucun, so none or aucun de aucune. Your ne, ni, great fun to say. Neither nor. Okay, and of course your ne que, meaning only. Really key that one there. Ne que, only. Also worth knowing things as sauf, meaning except, and par contre, meaning however, often used to express something negative. About to come up. Okay, so let's look at a couple of examples. We might have something like this one here, where we're being asked about what Florence tells us about the food she eats. The bit we're going to be focusing on is highlighted here, ready for you. And we can see it says, Moi, je n'aime pas beaucoup la viande. Je ne mange que de l'agneau. So what's she telling us? Je ne mange pas. I've got two lots of negatives here. Ne pas, so she doesn't like meat. And our other negative here, je ne mange que. She only eats an agneau, being lamb. So she only eats lamb. So for my 2 marks here, I'd need to say she doesn't like meat and she only eats lamb. But really important, we have to know that this ne que means to be able to establish that she only eats lamb, and not to perhaps be confused and think that she doesn't eat it. Okay, another example of a question is this one here. So if we scroll on down, we've got again my sentence highlighted that we're going to focus on. And my question we need to answer is, what does Emmanuel tell us about the party? We've got, it was fun, he met his friends there, or he didn't know anyone. So if we look at the sentence, we've got, hier je suis allée à une fête, mais je ne me suis pas particulièrement amusée, car je ne connaissais personne. Okay, so we've got 2 lots of negatives. Je ne me suis pas particulièrement amusée, car je connaissais personne. So he didn't really have fun. Didn't particularly have fun. Oops, help I could spell really in English. It's meant to be an extra in there. Look, I guess stick it in there. And je ne connaissais personne. He knew nobody. He didn't know anyone. So my options then, it was fun. We said it wasn't. So we know my negatives ruled that one out. Okay. He met his friends there. Well, he says he doesn't know anyone, so we're going to assume that's not true. And he didn't know anyone, therefore, is going to be my correct answer. So know your negatives, guys. Sometimes in the reading and listening papers, the word you're looking out for might not be exactly the same way you'd anticipate it. So, for example, if you're expecting something to be about a carrot, then rather than a carrot, you might hear it described as an orange vegetable, for example. Okay, so it's worth having a think about the different ways of describing things. So a classic one is rather than talking about winter, en hiver, what you might hear them refer to is décembre or janvier, so January or December, your months of the year. Equally, in terms of summer, en été, okay, you might hear them talking about juillet or août. Yeah, remember août is spelt funnily, but it's pronounced août. Okay, so you might hear them talk about that. You might hear cheap, so pas cher, could be described in a number of ways. It could be peu cher, not very expensive. It could be bon marché, so good value. You might hear them refer to prix raisonnable, reasonable prices. Or à bas prix, low prices. Or you might hear them say ne coûte pas cher, doesn't cost much. Ne coûte pas cher, ne coûte pas beaucoup, doesn't cost a lot. Okay, so it's a good way when you're revising of finding a word and thinking about how else might this be referred to, and that can help you and prepare for the reading and listening exam. Let's look at the question together. So we've got this one here, which is in a completely wrong place. So let's move that down so you can see it better. Okay, so the question is asking which two statements are true. Okay, so we only need to focus on this a little bit here, so let's get rid of that. Maxime veut aller à New York avec ses parents en décembre. So which two statements are true? Maxime wants to go on holiday in the winter. Maxime doesn't like big cities. Maxime wants to go on holiday with her friends. And Maxime with a capital A, wants to go on holiday with her family. Okay, so which two are true? So it's saying she wants to go to New York with her parents in December. Okay, so she wants to go to New York, which we know is a city. So we know that that one there isn't going to be right, is it? It doesn't like big cities. Well, why does she want to go to New York if she doesn't like big cities? Yeah, she wants to go with her parents. Yeah, her parents are the same as her family. So we know that D is correct. She wants to go on holiday with her family. She's going with her parents. And the last one, she's going obviously in December. Okay, and that's the same as in the winter, isn't it? Remember, so they did that quite a lot. So we know that she wants to go on holiday in the winter and she wants to go with her family. Be aware of things out there, especially to distract you or try and trick you. Multiple choice questions, for example, like this one here, are classic examples when some of the wrong options here are actually mentioned in the text or in the listening. Okay, so it's things to try and confuse you. So don't rush. Okay, to select your answer just because you've heard a word or just because you've read a word. And I know it's really difficult if you're feeling stressed and everything else, but in the reading you've got plenty of time, and in the listening you get to hear it twice. So double check that you haven't been caught up by one of their tricks. Okay, so let's have a look at this one here. We've got they visited their grandparents every, and we've got options of weekend, month, 6 months and year. So first it might be kind of going over thinking about how do we say weekend, but obviously it's the same weekend. A month, mois. So 6 months we're going to say 6 mois, and an for year or année, remember. Okay, and then we're going to have a look in the text. I've crossed out the bits that we don't need to look at. We've got chaque été, au mois d'août, nous visitons nos grands-parents. Now, see if you can spot the trick here. Maybe pause the video if you want to, and you'll see that they've mentioned the word mois, haven't they? Okay, and this is the trick. This is to try to confuse you, so that you'll think, I'm going to put month. They visit their grandparents every month. However, we need to go into a little bit more detail and actually just take a look at what they're saying. So chaque is every, été, summer. So what it's actually saying is every summer in the month of August, remember août is a bit of a funny one, it's pronounced differently to how it's written. We visit our grandparents. So they visit their grandparents. Well, definitely not every weekend. Nothing's mentioned about that, is it? Every month is the one we're going to have to come back to. 6 months, doesn't say every 6 months, or possibly every year. And again, it doesn't mention the word year, does it? But we have to understand the text a little bit in a bit more detail. So every summer, in the month of August, we visit our grandparents. So when are they visiting their grandparents? Once a year, aren't they? So they visit their grandparents every year. So you can see there how that moi has been put in to try and trick you, try and confuse. And this could equally be a reading or listening question. Okay, so just take your time and be my best advice. Sometimes the questions will be that straightforward. Okay, but there will be some that try and catch you out. So just go into a little bit more detail and go back over your answers. Knowing things like your time phrases or frequency expressions is not only helpful in terms of identifying if something's perhaps referring to past, present or future, but it can also help you with that precision that you're going to need in some answers. So for example, hardly ever is not the same as never, is it? Okay, so it's really important that we know those. So things, for example, let's start with toujours or tout le temps, all the time, or always. Souvent, often, d'habitude, or normalement, usually or normally. De temps en temps, from time to time. Or quelquefois, sometimes. Or parfois, sometimes as well. Down to rarement. Rarely, quasiment jamais, almost never, presque jamais, almost never, jamais, being never, and things like ne plus, not anymore. Okay, so all of those are really key to know to be able to express how often something's happened. Also worth knowing such things as il y a, and then can be jour, semaine, mois, an, or année, meaning ago. So you'd have a number. Il y a 4 jours, 4 days ago, to tell you when something happened. Also worth going back over such things as depuis, since, pendant, for, how long. Okay, so if you're not sure of those, do go back over them. Yeah, let's look at a quick question then. So the sort of thing, you might come across in the exam, it gets better, it's in the right place now, is this one here. So you've got some text in French and you've got 2 questions. How often does she win sporting competitions and when does she usually ski? So how often does she win sporting competitions? So let's go here. Compétition, that's going to be our competitions. Bien que je fasse beaucoup de sport, je n'ai presque jamais gagné de sport. So presque jamais is almost never. Okay, so my answer, how often? Almost never. I cannot write never. I wouldn't be given the marks. That's not what it's saying. It's not saying she's never won anything, but she almost never wins anything. Okay, and then when does she usually ski? Well, d'habitude, je fais du ski chaque hiver. And here, the chaque hiver is my key bit. It's telling me when she's doing it. Each or every winter. And when does she usually ski? If I just put winter, again, I wouldn't be allocated the mark. You've got to be precise. What does it say exactly? It says she goes skiing every winter, usually. Okay, so be precise. Spend time going over these frequency or time expressions. Make sure you know them and make sure you translate them really, really accurately in the exam. Spending sometime when you're revising, going over verb endings really is a good idea. It's worth dedicating some time during your revision to going over your verb endings and making sure you can recognise whether verbs are expressing present, past or future ideas. Okay, obviously this will help you in terms of your writing and speaking, but it will also help you in listening and reading, where you may well have to specifically decide whether something's expressing an idea that's happened or going to happen or is happening. Okay, and of course it would also help you in the translation, where you will have to write in more than one tense. Okay, so we're going to go over and quickly revise some of those verb endings. Let's start with the past. Okay, remember you've got two different past tenses, and you've got your passé composé, which is made up of two different verbs, your auxiliary, like the j'ai mangé. So you've got your j'ai, your auxiliary, and your manger, your past participle. Or je suis allé, I went, and I'm going to put an extra e on line because I'm feminine, female. Okay, so I ate or I went. And you've also got your other past tense, your imperfect, used to describe what you used to do. So je mangeais, I used to eat. Or j'allais, I used to go. Or c'était, even, it was. Okay? In present tense then, you've got je mange. So compare that to past. J'ai mangé, je mange. They sound very different, don't they? Or je vais, I go. Or c'est, it is. And in the future then, you've got three different options. Je vais manger, I'm going to eat. And notice here how you've got your verb in the infinitive. That's common to all your future tenses. You're going to have an infinitive in there. So then my next one, I will eat. Je mangerai. Okay, here's your infinitive again. So manger, and then your et ending on the end. And then what we call a conditional, I would eat. Je mangerai. So quite similar to your future. Okay, but obviously got an extra S and the pronunciation is softer, so je mangerai as opposed to je mangerai. Again, you can see your infinitive running throughout there. Now don't worry too much if you think, there's so many verbs and so many tenses, how can I remember them all? Focus on your regular verbs to start with, and make sure you know them in the I form. They're the ones you're most likely to need in terms of your writing and your speaking. Okay, and then perhaps add on your he or she form once you've mastered your I form, and then perhaps the we form if you get time in terms of the ones that are necessary for translation. Okay, in terms of reading and listening then, you'll be pleased to hear that there will usually be some sort of phrase as well to guide you as to what the tense is that's being used. So if you perhaps struggle to identify your verbs, then these key phrases might help you. So for example, you might have l'année dernière, last year, so the dernière here being key, la semaine dernière, last week. Yeah, telling us something has already happened. You might have hier, yesterday, avant-hier, the day before yesterday, just avant by itself, before. Or récemment, recently. You might have when I was little, quand j'étais petit. And a really useful one is this il y a with a time. So il y a followed by a number, and then either a day, jour, semaine, mois, année, depending. Okay, and it means ago. So il y a 4 jours, 4 days ago. And obviously that's referring to that something's happened, doesn't it? Let's just quickly extend my table. Oh, pretty pink. Don't know where that came from, but I quite like it. I'm going to keep it. Present tense then, you're going to have things like today, aujourd'hui, oops, now, maintenant, normally or usually, start with usually, d'habitude, or normally, normalement. All those sorts of things refer to present, and things like every day, tous les jours, or chaque jour, each day. Yeah. In terms of future then, it's more going to be things about tomorrow, isn't it? So demain, day after tomorrow, lendemain. Maybe about next week, next year. So next week, la semaine prochaine. So really important, you remember the difference between prochaine, meaning next, referring to future, and dernière, meaning last, obviously referring to past. So that can become l'année prochaine as well, can't it? L'année prochaine. You might have after, après, or in the future, à l'avenir. Okay, and you'll usually find these in reading and listening to guide you as to what tense something's in. So let's look at a quick example question. We've got here about Léo and his sport. So it says, Léo, tu aimes le sport? Okay, you normally take some time to read through this. Perhaps pause the video now and take a read through it. We're going to quickly look at the questions together. So go straight to the questions. So what sport did he used to do? So we're looking for something in the past here, aren't we? What sport does he currently do? So it's going to be something in the present. And what sport's he going to do in the future? Well, obviously that's future, isn't it? Okay, so let's go through the text and see what we can identify. So, Léo, tu aimes le sport? Oui, j'adore le sport. Je fais de l'athlétisme tous les jours. Oh, I recognise tous les jours. That was one of our frequency or time expressions, wasn't it? Meaning every day. If you do something every day, it's something you currently do in the present, isn't it? So what activity has he mentioned here? Je fais de l'athlétisme. So, what sport does Leo currently do? Athlétisme. Athletics. Remember, question in English, so we answer in English, don't we? Let's move on. Est-ce que tu as toujours fait de l'athlétisme? Non. Quand j'étais petit. Ooh, I recognise that. J'étais petit when I was little. So that's going to be something he used to do. And what activity does he mention? Je jouais au foot. Ooh, football. Okay, so what sports does he used to do? Football. Okay, let's keep going. Je fais de l'athlétisme depuis 1 an maintenant. Or maintenant, we said meant now, didn't it? And he's mentioning athletics. That confirms that he does athletics, doesn't it? So that's right. We seem to have got that right. Keep going. Est-ce que tu aimerais essayer d'autres sports à l'avenir? Oh, l'avenir, we meant in the future. That's good. So hopefully what's coming next is going to be about the future. Oui, but the speech mark should be down here at the end. Oui, l'année prochaine. Ooh, l'année prochaine, meaning next year. So this is definitely the section referring to future, isn't it? And what sports does he mention? Je vais faire, future tense verb there, du VTT. VTT is mountain biking. Okay, so you can see that even though we can perhaps use our verbs to guide us, these little phrases, these frequency phrases, manage to help us answer all of those questions correctly. Try not to get too stressed out or too bogged down in the quantity of text or audio that you might have to read or to listen to, because often the information that you need to answer questions is only a small part. Okay, so don't worry about how long things are. It might actually be a really straightforward question. Okay, sometimes the key to answering all the questions from a text or from a listening is knowing just 6% of the words actually on the page. Okay, or that you hear. So for example here, what is Emma's favourite subject? So imagine this was a listening activity. All you need to hear really is what her favourite subject is. You're listening out for subject, aren't you? So I'm going to read it to you first so you can do some of the listening activity, and then we'll have a look at what it actually says. So just remember, you're focusing on what Emma's favourite subject is. J'aime bien mon collège, les profs sont gentils et j'ai beaucoup d'amis. Ma matière préférée c'est la musique car j'adore jouer de la batterie. Aussi, je fais de la natation 3 fois par semaine. Okay, so maybe you picked out in there was only one subject mentioned. Okay, let's have a quick look at what I was actually saying. So here we go. We've got j'aime bien mon collège, les profs sont gentils et j'ai beaucoup d'amis. Ma matière préférée, c'est la musique. Here we go. Car j'adore jouer de la batterie. Aussi, je fais de la natation 3 fois par semaine. Favorite subject then? Music. We didn't need to worry about all these other words here. I mean, it helps us to know that ma matière préférée is my favourite subject, of course. Okay, so make sure she's not talking about listening to music, maybe. But if you were really stuck and you thought, I've only heard one thing in there that recognises being a subject, go with it. Okay, don't worry about how long it is or how much other information you're having to hear. Focus on the stuff that you need to know to answer the questions you are being asked. In most questions, not all, but the information will appear in the same order as is required by the question. Okay, the only time this doesn't really happen is if you've got a question that requires you to work out what tense something's written in, because then that might perhaps be a little bit too obvious. So let's look at this question here. Okay, and we've got 4 questions to answer. So we've got read this blog post by Elodie and complete the gap in each sentence using a word from the box below. There are more words than gaps. Okay, we've got Elodie wakes up, she goes to school, her mum works, her dad goes to work. Okay, now although we're going to be focusing on how order in the text here can help us, it is worth spending some time pointing out that, of course, that you can already limit your options by thinking about things that make sense. Use your common sense, guys. Okay, so Elodie wakes up, we're not going to have by bus. Oh, by bus appears twice. Let's cross that one out. Okay, maybe Elodie wakes up in the office, bit weird. Wakes up at home. Well, we'd kind of hope so, but we're perhaps looking for more an early, late, or at 7:30, aren't we? She goes to school by bus, by train, by bike, by car. Her mum works in the office at home, and her dad goes to work again by bus, by bike, by train, by car. Okay, so you've got your options there, but it's also going to show us how this isn't a question that requires us to understand tenses, so it's going to be hopefully in the right order. So Elodie wakes up. Okay, well maybe I don't know the word for wakes up, so I think, oh okay. I'm going to have a quick through. Je me réveille souvent tard pour aller au collège. Je m'habille très vite. Je me brosse les dents et je prends le bus à 8 heures. Well, here something's mentioned in terms of transport, isn't it? Excuse me. I recognise the bus as a mode of transport. Okay, and she has mentioned here collège. So I'm going to assume that she goes to school by bus. Okay, I can come back and check that, of course. So she goes to school by bus. Carrying on, normalement, je mange mon petit déjeuner dans le bus. Oh, she's mentioned bus again. Okay, I'm pretty certain now that she must go to school by bus. Ma mère travaille. Oh, mère, my mum. That must relate to this one. My mum works. Ma mère travaille à la maison. I know maison's a house. So anything here relates to house? Home. My mum works at home. Her dad goes to work. Mais mon père, oh, père travaille à Paris, Paris. No, nothing's mentioned about Paris. Donc, il prend le train, très tôt. Okay, so dad goes to work by train. Now I can go back to A and think, right, the answer's got to be somewhere in this first section. Okay, because I know this is a question that's in the right order, so it's going to mention something in here about when she wakes up. So, je me réveille souvent tard pour aller au collège. Okay, I recognise the word tard, meaning late. You use that sometimes in class. Je suis en retard. I'm late. So I'm going to think she must wake up late is going to be my answer. And actually, I'll tell you now, réveil is réveiller is to wake up. So I know that I wake up often late to go to school. And that, guys, is how you can use order to help you out. This tip is really most relevant for the listening paper, and you'll get 5 minutes at the start before you even have to listen to the transcript to have a look through the paper, and there'll always be that sort of fairly lengthy, sometimes really awkward pause and you think, has the CD stopped, before each question that you've got. Okay, and in that time then, what I strongly suggest that you do is you start to think of all the words and write down all the words that relate to the question. Going to really get your mind thinking about that particular topic and get yourself in the zone. Really helpful to do at the start of exam because it can kind of help to calm you down and reassure you and sort of get your mind, brain working in French, really. Okay, so let's have this question here. We've got local area. I listened to Ludovic talking about problems in his town. So we're going to be trying to think here about all the sort of words that might relate to problems in towns. I'm going to be thinking about, think about traffic. So things relating to traffic, I might have cars, voiture, traffic itself, circulation. I might have embouteillage. Of course, this is your own notes, so spellings wouldn't matter, but obviously I'm going to write them correctly for you. But embouteillage, traffic jams. You might have things to do with pollution, pollution. Yeah, you might have things mentioned about public transport. Maybe it's not good enough. Okay, so you might have train, bus, or the actual word for public transport, transport en commun. You might have things to do with green areas. Okay, maybe there aren't enough green areas. So green areas, espace vert, sort of cover like parks and stuff for children and just open spaces. Maybe there's too much noise. So you might hear something about le bruit or c'est bruyant, noisy. Okay, maybe you might hear something to do with a lack of facilities. They might say il y a Oh, il n'y a, sorry. Il n'y a rien à faire. There's nothing to do. We might hear something about les établissements pour les jeunes. Something to do with young people, not enough facilities for young people. I think things like cinéma and all those sorts of words as well. There might be something to do with rubbish. Déchets, les déchets, rubbish, or les ordures. Right, too much rubbish maybe in the streets. Okay, maybe it's too big, too small, so trop petit, trop grand. Yeah, maybe there's not enough of something. Maybe in here, not enough. Il n'y a pas assez de, so not enough shops, magasins, etc. Okay, so I've used my time there at the start of my exam, or before this question even starts, to start thinking, right, what are the sorts of things they could be going to mention? Okay, and I now find myself in the zone. I'm ready to listen to Ludovic. Okay, that's it, folks. I hope you found it useful. Good luck. Bonne chance.